Hi everyone, so I'm going to be going over how we can set up a GitHub dashboard and also just some useful techniques for technical product managers on how everything is set up in terms of when you work with developers and how their entire, or at least part of the structure of how tasks are created, the important steps of setting up a task, and how you can manage each of the tasks, and in order to help your developers and other team members know what's going on and what needs to still be completed or what is completed already. So let's say we have our GitHub account. So if you don't have one yet, make sure you sign up for one. And we want to first be able to create an account here. But let's first get into a little bit of background information as to what a GitHub dashboard is, and just a little bit more on the technical side of things. So what is GitHub? So just a platform that allows developers to store and share and collaborate with on their coding projects. So it's not just for developers, but also product managers, project managers, product owners. They can all create these tasks with stories that help create a really clear picture as to what needs to be fixed, what needs to be completed. And we usually use something like Git as a version control system. This is more for developers, but we can create branches, we can make edits independently, we can merge files with these Git commands, so it's very useful in creating projects. I'll create more videos on how to set up branches and how to merge files and all that stuff in a separate video, but for now I just want to go over the basics of it. And GitHub started in 2008. So let's just take a little bit of an understanding as to what a repository is versus what a dashboard is. So a repository is just a place where you save your code, some sort of information that you have. You want to save it in one specific spot, so then you can grab it when you need to, and you can edit it, you can update, you can delete things from it. So it's just a great way to save the stuff that you have. It's just like an external drive. You're saving information somewhere else, but a GitHub repository is just online. You're saving your stuff online in a specific spot. And then a dashboard is something that you can keep track of any issues, and these are very important. You can keep track of pull requests as well you're working on. So pull requests, we're not going to look too much into it in this video, but it's essentially some sort of pretty much like a feature that you have created for a code, and a PR is just something that someone looks over. You get another team member to look over a piece of code, but you can see that later on in the dashboard. I'll explain it when that happens later on in this video, but just a high overview that a dashboard is just really to keep track of issues. So once you have logged into your GitHub account, this is my main page here, my main account here for my GitHub. And you can see here I have a few repositories, I have some projects set up. So we're specifically going to look at projects, but here, remember we were comparing repositories to dashboards. So repositories, you can see here we got a bunch of different projects that I got going on. So it's really just a way of grouping your projects and then saving that information. So if I go here, for example, you can see here that it has some TypeScript, HTML, CSS, so you can see all this information for this specific project, and there's some information here, but also we're going to see how we can use this repository to connect it to a project. So whenever you click on a project here, you'll see some sort of dashboard. So if I go back actually, and I try to go to, let's see if I could find a repository that has a dashboard attached to it. So if I go to Dispatcho, here we go. So we can see here we have projects here. So we have something, not much here in this repo, but we go to projects. And then you can see here we got 3 different types of dashboards. And if I click on one of them, I'm just going to click on this UI UX design phase one. This is where more the project managers, product owners, the developers will come in here to pick up some stuff. But here you can see that there's different columns here. There's different ways you can represent information as well. There's tables, boards, and roadmaps. I'm going to get into it very shortly, but I just want to show you kind of like a high-level overview as to how the layout is. And you can see here, these are the different pointing systems that we're going to go over in this video. So let's go back over here, and I'm just going to explain the different types of dashboards. So here we got a table, a board, roadmap. So there's 3 different types that GitHub has. A table, it looks like an Excel spreadsheet. The board, it's more of a visual columns to help drag and drop tasks. I would say this is the most important one for developers to look at. It's just very easy to drag and drop your tasks into specific columns when you know a task is going in the direction of completion. And then there's a roadmap. So this one is more beneficial towards project managers because you can see specific timelines. So let's go back to GitHub. And I'm just going to actually go back to my main GitHub here. And I'm going to create a brand new, let's say brand new repository. And I'll just set up a new repository here and then show you how we can connect a dashboard to this new repository. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a repository name. Let's just call it testing for right now. Or let's see here. Let's say is for GitHub dashboard example. Okay, so we're creating a repository. This is where you store code, and I'll create a README file so at least we have something. Create repository, and then you can see here we have the README file that is saved here. So we have something saved here, and what we want to do is we want to create some sort of dashboard that is attached to it. So there's different ways of doing it. So if we're already in the repository, we can click on projects, and then we can click on new project because there's nothing here that's showing right now. So if we click on new project, and you can see here we have different types. We have table, board, roadmap, and then there's some GitHub templates that you could use if you want. So I guess I'm going to create one from scratch though. So I'm just going to select table for right now. We can always change it, and we can rename this to GitHub dashboard example. So at least we know what it is. We'll create the project, and there we go. We got a timeline right now. So add first item. Okay, we'll dismiss it right now. But here, this is like the Excel layout where we have the title column, assignee, status. This is just the basic columns here. But here we can always change the view. So if we click that arrow, we can click on board, and now we can see 3 different columns instead. If we don't like this, we could go to roadmap, and then roadmap here, we can see here has the actual dates. and we have a timeline here. This is very good for project management. What I'm going to do though is I really like the board. This just makes the most sense, especially since I'm a developer. We would have different types of columns that would help us in order to organize the different tasks, so we know what tasks we need to do, where the progress is, and then if it is completed. So let's try organizing this table here and fixing it so we have something that's a little bit more detailed. Okay, so what we're going to do is I'm just going to start from scratch. So I'm going to delete these columns. So I'm just clicking those little 3 dots there, delete. I want to start from scratch, delete. Can I delete it? I might have to have, I think I just have to have at least one there. So what I could actually do is I could actually edit it. So edit details. So instead of calling it to do, I'll say in development. And you can see here that we could change the colors to anything we want. I'll just keep it as gray, that's fine. So this, we could add a description, ready to be worked on, save, and there we go, in development. And then let's add a new column here, a labeled text. I'll put blocked / on hold. I guess I'll just put it as a yellow. Items are blocked or on hold at the moment. And then I'll add another column. I'll put failed tests. So I'll mark it as a red. Some tests have failed and we'll need the developer to look at fixing this issue. Something like that. Save. And then I'll add another column. Let's say in PR review. And since it's under review, I guess I could put it as purple. Another developer is looking over the code. Okay, and I'm just going to move to the right a little bit. So we have in PR review, and then I'll say this one, new column, ready for test. So let's put that as a blue. And then I'll make another column. Or before I do that, I'll go back here. I'm going to go back to ready for test, edit details. This is ready for a QA, quality assurance developer, or however you want to call them, to perform tests. Save. And then I will add a new column, and it'll say in test. And if this is in tests, I guess I could put that as a green. And then a new column. So if it's in test, then a QA developer is currently testing the task. And then I'll add another column here. So after in test, we could have like PO review, a product. So PO review just means product owner. A product owner is reviewing the task to make sure all the BDDs have been met. I will talk about the BDDs very soon, but these are just individual tasks or points that need to be done within the task. So the PO review just means the product owners just making sure all the little details in the tasks have been met. And then last one is a new column. We'll mark it as done. So once it's done, I guess I'll just mark it as pink, sure. And then, so once it's done, it just means that the task has been completed. Perfect. So I'll save that. So now we can see here we got in development, blocked on hold, failed tests, in PR review, ready for test, in test, PO review, and then done. So now, since we got all of our columns set up, let's see what it looks like if we try to switch between the different layouts. So I'll go to table, and well, we can't really see anything right now because it's not going to, we didn't actually put any tasks that are available yet. But let's go to roadmap, nothing yet. So let's actually stay on our board, and I'm going to create an item. So when you create an item, it just essentially means that we are creating something that we need to, a specific task that we need to do for the project. Okay, and what I'm gonna just do here is view one, rename view. I'll just say iteration 1. There we go. So we got our first iteration going on. And eventually we're going to create a backlog as well. But let's stay here in development. So let's go back to our PowerPoint. And what we can see here is, I'm just going to go over a few definitions here. So what is a task or sub-issue? So task list or sub-issue, it just helps break down large issues into more manageable pieces. So for example, if we look at one task, we'll have a title for the task, we'll have some sort of narrative that explains what's going on. So we're gonna be setting up sentences that are starting with when, and then some sort of explanation, and then the word then, and then explains it. So this is all in one sentence. And then we have some sort of background information. There may be a few other requirements. And then the BDDs are very important. So the BDDs are the most important because this is the actual details of what needs to be done. So we have this GWT. We describe it as a given, when, and then. So given, we have some sort of sentence here. The sentence has to start with given, and then the second sentence starts with when, and then the third sentence starts with then. So we're trying to explain, given some sort of tasks that needs to be done, when whatever maybe the user has to do something, then there's a specific action that has taken place that needs to be done. So we could also add some notes or assumptions. This is optional. Maybe we have some sort of analytics that are added to it as well. And we should always actually add a fix or branch version. So later on, you'll see that in future videos, you'll see that if I create branches and you have a specific project, you will have features, of course. Features are specific items that are within a specific time period, but with all those different features, it does get merged into one of the sub branches, but a sub branch will actually have to be merged into another main branch, and it gets a lot more complicated. So all those different types of branches you create where you're saving your progress, you will need to create different versions. So I'm going to talk more about that in a future video, but it's very important to label what branch or specific version you want that code to be in, because you may have a branch on that you want to put code in not 2.5, and then there's another branch which is 3.1. So you have to know exactly where the code should be stored, because if you just start placing code all over the place, then when it comes time to do a specific release, you will miss that specific feature. It will not be then released properly. So having all these little requirements is very important when you're setting up a specific task, and we're going to go over an example very soon with this as well. Now let's see how to write an actual description of a task with these requirements. So here I made an example task here. So if I click on this one that I created, so if you want to know how to create a task here on our board here, whenever we move it around now, we could put it in whichever column we need. You just click the add item here, and we can just click, we'll put some sort of title like this is a task 002. Maybe we want to add a footer. Okay, so enter, and you can see here now we got add a footer, and when we click on this, you can see here we got everything, a base template all set up for us. I'll show you how we could set this up later, but for now I'm going to show you all these different things that we can add to our task. So here, if I go to this example, I'll click on it, and here we got the number of our ticket and our task, and then we got our title here beside it. It depends however you want to write it, it's up to you. But you can see here we got some sort of narrative. We're saying that we want to make sure the user is able to click on a button in order to log in. And then we got some background information, so there will be a form on the login page, and we need to make sure at the end of the form there's a button for the user to click login. This will then verify with the database that the user has entered in the right credentials. And the requirements is to be able to log into the user's account. And then here we got a BDD. So let me actually edit this here, because I need to, here it should be BDD 1, because we could have multiple BDDs, right? So after those notes and assumptions, then we could have something else, like here we could have BDD 2, and then we could type whatever we need there. But for now we just have one BDD, and I'm going to save this. It's down here, save. And you can see here the first one is given, when the user has finished filling out the form on the login page, when the user enters in the user's username and password and is ready to submit their credential information, then the user should be directed to the dashboard. And then here are any notes and assumptions that the user can log into their account with the right credentials added in. And then there's analytic requirement to be able to track how many complete and failed attempts there are. I should put a little more context there. Complete and failed attempts there are when someone logs in. Save. And I think I'm gonna actually one more thing. I will edit this. I'm just gonna remove that because I actually put the fix and branch on the right side here, and I'll show you how to create this right side as well. But for now, this is pretty much the description of one specific BDD within a task that a user has or a developer has to work on. And we could see here that we got myself assigned to it, and then you can always click on assignees. Here you can click on this gear bar, and then you can have many different, you might have a team of 10 or whatever it is, and then you can select the user's name, and then it'll be assigned to that person. And then there's different labels you can add. If I click on the gear icon, you can see here I got different types of labels I can add to it. Usually there's just basic ones like a story, a bug, documentation, maybe enhancement, but I would say these three are probably the top three, but these are the top two, a story or a bug. And then here we got something that is very important for the project and how we score the project. So here we could see this is in development right now because it's in the development column. And here we got a priority. So our priority is low because it's not a really a big task. It's just adding a button. I mean, actually, it could be really important because the person needs to log in. But it's up to you. However you want to set the priority, you can click on it, and then we got different options. I'll show you how to do that. We got a size. I'll explain exactly what the difference is between priority and size soon. But you can see here I can click on the drop down, select whatever I want. There's an estimate. Estimate is based on Fibonacci sequence, and I'll talk about that soon too. We got an iteration, which pretty much specifies, which given time period that this ticket will be worked on. And then a branch or fix version is, which branch should that developer target and focus on. And we got milestones area. Milestones is great if you have a bunch of different tasks that you want to be done within like a specific goal. So here I've set up this design goal thing, and I'll show you how to set up these milestones soon. But if I do click on this example for now, you can see here it's setting a milestone to that, and you can see how much is completed from that specific area. And I'll just unclick it because I don't need it right now here. And then development here is if we have a specific branch we want to target and put this towards. So we got some sort of numbering. We want to put this as a feature. We're saying this is a story. The story matches this label here, story, and whatever the ticket number is and the title. And then here, that's pretty much the most important parts of a task. So now let's get into all the details of each of the sections. So these are the different areas that a task contains, as I've shown you. We got status, assignees, labels, priority size, estimate, iteration, branch or fix, milestone, pull request, and of course you can have whatever you want on your tickets, but this is just some really important ones. A pull request is the one that shows here the whatever branch you're setting up to store the work that you're doing right now. So that is the pull request, because someone else is going to review that pull request and see what needs to be updated or fixed before it is merged into the main code. And let's get into our first one. There's a task status. So task status is basically based on the number of columns you have on the board, and it helps keep track of how far along the project is. So if we take a look at our board here, the status here, if we go back, yeah, let's just click on it. Status here, status in development right now. If I click here in the status and I click block or on hold, and then I exit, I might have to refresh the page here. You can see here now that this ticket or task has been moved over in the blocked or on hold column, but I can also drag and drop it. It doesn't really matter that much. So if I drag and drop it now and I click on it, you can see here it's in development now. So we have something that's set up now, based on whatever the status is, based on the columns. And then here we got assignees. Assignees is just basically assigning a person to complete a task, and that's what I've shown you here. It's just myself. I selected myself from the drop down, and let me go to that gear icon. There should be a drop down with whoever your team members are. You can click it, so then it is assigning that person to complete this task. And then we got priority. So priority is just a way of ranking the tasks based on their importance and urgency. So we can go with PO, which is high priority, P1, medium, P2, low. You can use either wording, it doesn't matter. You can use high, medium, low. You can use these PO, P1, P2. It's really up to you. But if we have a high priority, they're very urgent and important. They're close to the deadline and have high stakes. So the highest allocation of resources is needed. And then the medium is they're important but not urgent, and some level of resource is needed. Then there is the low, where it is the least urgent and it won't help with any projects as much as other higher priority tasks. So very little resources are needed for this task. And the priority right here is going to be here with the projects. So what I've done here is it creates this little box here when you select which project that this task is going to be associated to. So let me show you exactly how we could set this up from scratch. So here when I clicked add an item, it created this template, add a footer. So I'm just going to create something now in order to fill out this task, just like I've done here, so then we can go through the steps on how I've created it from scratch. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to click on this task here, or this item here that we've created, and you can see here if we click on edit title, we could change the title if we want to, save it, and then here we can go into edit to edit this description area, and we can write our narrative. So here I'll click on H for the header, and we'll write narrative, and then I'll put without the colon there, and then we can say we want to be able to see the website copyright with the year and terms and conditions. Terms and conditions link. This will let the user know when the site has been last updated. Also, it will let the user know, well, we want the year, terms and conditions, link, and privacy policy link. This will let the user know when the site has been last updated. Also, it will let the user know how their data is being used by the company. Okay, and then we'll have some background information. The footer will be at the bottom of every page. The user will be able to see the company name and year of when it was last updated. It will also contain 2 links to other pages, so the user will be able to understand how the company uses people's information. And then we'll have requirements as well. And we'll just say to be able to have the copyright shown at the bottom of every page, and to allow the user to navigate to the page that will contain legal information. And then we'll have the BDDs now. So here we'll have BDD, GWT, and we'll have BDD1. So we'll say, given when the user scrolls to the bottom of the page, given when the user scrolls to the bottom of the page, given the user is scrolling on the website page, when the user gets to the bottom of the page, they will be able to see the company name with the copyright symbol and year the website was last updated. Then the user gets to the bottom of the page, when the user gets to the bottom of the page, then the user will be able to see the company name with the copyright symbol and year the website was last updated. And any other notes / assumptions might be the footer will always be at the bottom of the page. And then we have BDD number 2. So I could copy the same format here. Actually, all of that. When the user scrolling to the bottom of the website, the user gets to the bottom of the page, then the user will be able to see the I believe it's called terms and conditions. Terms and conditions. And we'll be able to click on it to navigate to that page. Okay, and the footer will always be at the bottom of the page. The link will be directed to another page internally. And then we'll have BDD number 3 now. So number 3 would be privacy policy. See the privacy policy, and we'll be able to click on it and navigate to that page. We direct it to another page internally. Okay, perfect. And then the last one here will be analytic requirement. Let me first make that a header. So analytic, okay. Let me make that go back up again, header, and then analytic requirement. We'll say we want to be able to track when the user clicks on the terms and conditions or privacy policy links. Okay, and then that should be it. So what I'm going to do is just update the comment, and you can see here that we got all of our headings with our descriptions and BDDs. So everything is all nicely set up and ready for the developers to look at. Now we just need to change some stuff on the right side in order to tag everything correctly. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to add some things on the right side here. So here, add assignees. Make sure that you have all your team members added into your dashboard. So I can click on myself here and I'll show up here on the list, and I can click on it, and then I'm going to be assigned to this task. And you can always add more task members if I close that, and if I go here, these 3 dots, settings, and manage access, and you should be able to here invite collaborators, type whatever their username is, and then click invite. And that's how you'll add more people to your project. And what I'm going to do here is, we can see the status is, we could put in development, or what I'm actually going to do is add one more, I'm going to add one more column, and it's going to be ready for development, and okay, that's good. So I'm just going to move that over. Ready for development, move it all the way over. Okay, I'm just going to change the color so it will be blue, ready for development. Perfect. So it should actually start here then, because we haven't started any of the tasks yet. So move it over. Perfect. Let's put underneath, it doesn't really matter. But here, if I go back to my task now, and I can see here ready for development, so you can always click on this and you can change to whatever column you want to set it to. And then priority, this is going to be very important as well. So if we go to choose the options, we can see high, medium, low. We can really set it to any value we want, but you can see here I just made it high, medium, low, so we'll know how important it is to work on this. So I'll just say the footer, I would say it's, if you're starting off, it would be pretty important, so I'd say medium. And then here, if we want to see how we can change this, because like maybe we have something that's you know, other types of values instead of just high, medium, and low, we could go over here and let's go out of this, and you can see here the medium tag gets added to the bottom and the little user icon shows up. But here we can go to these three dots, go to settings, and then here on the left side you can see these custom fields. So here if I click on priority, high, medium, low, and we can always add more options if we want to. So let's say for example I didn't have priority yet, I'll delete this and you can see it's gone. And then let's add a new field, priority, and I'm going to put priority of single selection, so it's like a drop down, and I'll put high, medium, low, and I'm just going to edit this to be high as a red, orange, medium, and then low is a yellow. Save. So now I have my priority. I should be able to move it. There we go, priority. So now we got those different options there. The status here, we could see we got all those columns that we've set up. And then here we got our size as well. So let's go back first over here. You can see here we have to add back our label because I was going to say medium. And if I go back to my PowerPoint here, if we look at the size is also known as t-shirt sizing. So t-shirt sizing, it can represent the amount of effort needed for an entire feature on a platform. Maybe it's like the entire sign-in process or something big that can be broken down into multiple different tasks. So we have these t-shirt sizings to see how big that overall big project will be, or overall big feature will be. And the sprint can last a week or two of completing all the tasks. This is really up to the team to decide how long each sprint is. So a sprint really depends, could be 2 weeks, could be 3 weeks, could be 4 weeks. It just depends on the size and you know, how fast everyone likes to finish things. But here, let's say for example extra small is 1 sprint and 1 sprint is like 2 weeks, and then here small is 2 to 3 sprints for 2 weeks each, and then medium is 3 to 4 sprints, large 4 to 5 sprints, and extra large 6+ sprints. So you can see, you know, there could be some really big feature that needs to be added, but it could take multiple weeks. So we have to see, you know, kind of estimate how long it would take. And that is the t-shirt sizing for the size. So if we go back to the size here, you can see here we got extra small, small, medium, large, extra large. So footer doesn't take a long time. I would say it just takes like just 1 day really. So extra small is great. And you can see it gets added to that task right there. And we can enter in a number for estimate. So let's go to the estimates. Estimates are based off of Fibonacci sequences. So Fibonacci sequences, I'll talk more about it in more depth in another future video, but overall in general, Fibonacci sequence, it's a method used by agile teams to estimate the complexity or effort required for a task, and it's a mathematical series of numbers. So the first few numbers are 0, 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, 21, and so on. It keeps going. If you've done a lot of math courses and computer science courses, you will see these Fibonacci sequences come up a lot. But usually we start off at the number of 1 for the estimates, and then we keep going up from there using all of the Fibonacci numbers. But usually you want to stick to anything between 1, maybe 5, maybe 8. So anything larger than an 8 means you might want to break it down into more smaller tasks. So if we go over here, we can have an estimate. We can click on here. This is enter in a number, so we could type something. So remember, we need to use the Fibonacci numbers. So we should know these numbers. Don't just put in random numbers. It's not like you can put in like a 4.5 or something. You should be using Fibonacci numbers. I'll be talking more about Fibonacci sequences in another video, but for now, just remember, always use Fibonacci numbers. I will say that this really is, if we're counting this, adding a footer with the links and just the text that's added, but also we have QA for quality assurance that's going to be doing their thing. Maybe it's a 1, maybe it's a 2, but because of QA, I'll just put a 2 for now because QA will need some time as well for it. And then we'll say which iteration do we want to go to. I'll say we're going to use the current. We could use future iterations, it doesn't matter, but I'll just put the current iteration. And you can see now it's for iteration number 1. And then here a branch or fixed version. So we might have multiple different branches where we put or store our changes. So we'll just put like 1.4.2. Let's say that's a branch number. And that's where the developers know now where they should save their code. So now, if I want to go into this iteration and estimate, I could show you where to go to edit those. So here, first off, you can see all of these values are corresponding to this task right here in a little sneak peek preview. And if I go here to the 3 dots, settings, and here you can see the estimate. It is a field type of number, because if I go to this new field, you can see the different field types: text, number, date, single, select is that drop down, iteration. The date, I wouldn't say it really matters that much unless there's like a specific date, like for a really big feature or task that needs to be done at a certain point. But iteration is fine. It just kind of tells you what given time period this task will be worked on. So I'm just going to cancel for now, but if I go to iteration, you can see here that I could add certain weeks, and I can also change it when these dates happen as well. So let's see here, planned, current. So here, if I click on the dates, you can see here it highlights it, and I can always change it by clicking on the different numbers on the calendar. And if I insert a break, you can see here we have a break point where maybe nobody's working on anything, so we could have that, but I'm just going to delete it for now. And you can see here it just is going to keep on rolling over to the next iteration whenever that date expires. So I'll just save it. And then we got a branch or fixed version here. It's just a text, so the user can type in whatever branch it will be in. So now I'll go back, and you can see here that I have everything all set up here. Let's go back to our dashboard here. So iteration again is just a task that needs to be completed within a specific block of time. So it's just whenever you set that calendar dates of when you'll be working on that task, that is the iteration. And then the branch or fix is just a task that needs to be completed. Now this should be where a code will be saved. So branch or fix is just where the code will be saved. And then we got milestones. It's to track the progress on groups of issues or pull requests. So milestones, so there's a group of issues or pull requests. So let's take a look at this. This one's really interesting. Before I do that, I'm going to, I guess I'll go here first to the login button. You can see here that this one's nicely formatted. And you can see here, this one shows the milestone and development, because this one is actually setting up something that's open and ready to be worked on. So what I'm going to do is, because this is in draft mode right now, I'm going to go back here and I'm going to have to convert to issue so then we can start working on it. I'll just select this project that I'm working on, and once it loads, it's going to say it's open, it's ready to be worked on. And you can see here now it makes this nice little project area, and we have our milestone set up. So milestone is, you can see here, we can set up different types of milestones. It's like a grouping of what needs to be done. So let's go back to the code area actually. So this is our dashboard. And if we go back to the actual code, so here you can see here we got our issues that we've opened up. I'm going to go to our milestones. You can see here I'm in pull request and then milestones, and we got the designs. You can see here we could have different tasks added to the designs, and you can see we're 50% complete. And then I can add a new milestone for, let's say, front, let's just say basic template and designs. So here we can set up when the due date is. It's optional. So we want setting up the basic formatting of the code for the website, and then create the milestone. And we could see here that we have not added anything, so it's like 0% right now. But if I go back now to my project or this dashboard and I click on the footer task that I have, and let me add a label to this actually. So the label, I'm going to say that this is just a story because we need to work on it. A story is just something that needs to be worked on. A bug is just something that's already there but needs to be fixed. So let's go back, and we have a story there now. Milestone, so we can see here milestone. I need to refresh the page first. So let's see, milestone. There we go. So now we got the basic template and designs. Now we can see that this is labeled to that milestone, and we can have a branch. We can create a branch where this code should be stored. So if I add this branch now, it'll be, so we're going to have a feature. So it'll be under, as you can see there, 1.4.2, which is what we have our branch or fix version. And we're going to have a feature, and it's going to be under so we have T1001, add a footer. So that's the branch name that we're going to have. And I will talk more about these repository and branch sources in a future video. For now, I'm just going to have these branch names. and I'm going to create the branch. And you can see here that in development, now we have created a branch where our code is going to be stored for this task. So let's go back over here. If a task is a we have a pull request. A pull request is essentially just this development area. The pull request is this branch where we know the code will be stored. And in a future video, I'll go over a PR in more detail, but it is essentially a branch where someone else, a PR is something a developer creates to merge changes from one branch into another. The PR will require someone else to review and discuss changes before the code can be added into the main code base. So it's very important that someone reviews the code that you did, because then you can make changes, you can update things before you add something into the main code base, because a newer developer may not know what they're doing and they may need some more extra guidance. So it requires someone to just give them pointers and just help them update their code. And I'll get more into those PRs in a future video as mentioned. And then a sprint, I just want to get into more detail about a sprint. So a sprint is when a new sprint starts, you should as a team decide when the start and end date will be. And this is just like an iteration, but the sprint is also important to add a goal for that sprint. And for example, we can have a 2-week sprint with 5 team members who are developers, and then so 5 team members are developers and then 5 QA team members as well, and we may want to only have a total of 60 story points. So the story points are right over here. It's the estimate. Estimate here is what you're going to use to calculate the story points. So here task 1 is 3 story points, task 2 maybe it's 5 story points, and then I'm just going to write it here. Story is equal to estimate, right? Or story is equal total estimate points. So for example, task 1 has 3 story points, task 2 has 5 story points, and so on until we get to a total of maybe 60 story points for those 2 weeks. So of course, as I mentioned, you can have it something longer than 2 weeks. You can maybe have it 1 week, but let's say you have it every 2 weeks, and in 2 weeks you need to complete 60 story points as an entire team with 5 developers and 5 QA team members. So that's basically a goal that everyone sets up, and it's something you do with your product owners and product managers or project managers. And then here we have what is a backlog. So backlog is just a buildup of work that needs to be completed. Backlogs are just tasks that are accumulated on the side, and usually to help bring in more tasks to the iteration if the development team determines it is important for a given iteration. So backlogs, you could, if I go back over here, there's iteration. We could have another tab here, maybe another board, and we could call this backlog. And let's see here. If I go here, let's say actually I might not even need to do that because it's kind of redundant. What I could do, well, I could do that. Fields, I'm going to create a new field, backlog, single select, true, false. Okay, let's see, fields. Backlog. Let's see if this works here. Generate chart. Actually, I don't think I really need this. Yeah. I think what I'm going to do is, so for the backlog, we could add it to another board. Usually, if you're using something like Azure, it's a little bit simpler because you could have it's easier to switch between multiple different tabs. For now, I would have to create some sort of filter in order to say it's a backlog. So I would have to exclude backlog. No, I'm just going to say if it's true for the backlog, then show it. Because nothing is a backlog, it's not going to show. But let's say if adding a footer is a backlog, then what I could do is I could go here and I could say here backlog true, and then here now I could put backlog of true. So now we can see here only our backlogs show up. So this is one way of doing it. So we have all of our iterations. We could filter here using this search bar if we want to. I would say there should be better ways of setting this up as a backlog. Usually want it separate from everything else here so you don't see it, but I'll have to look into that in a future video. But that's pretty much how you would use this filter tab right there. So that's the basic overarching idea that you should understand when you are working as a product owner or product manager and you're working with developers, and how the table should look and how you should set up specific tasks and how you could manage your tasks and label them correctly, because it's very important. So here, priority, this one is missing a priority. It should have it priority. Let's say it's high, for example, and you can see here we got different labels here, which is very important. So whenever a developer comes in, they can see whatever's ready for development. When they want to come in and pick up a new task, they'll grab that task, move it over, and now they're assigned that task because they signed it to themselves. Whenever it's here ready for development though, you would unassign it. So here it's best practice when you are not working on a ticket, or at least when it's here and ready for development, anyone can pick it up, so it should not have a label there. It's only when it's in development or greater, here on the right side, that it should have someone's name attached to that task. And once you get over here in development, once someone's done the task, they'll put into PR review. And this PR review, again, remember, it's when someone else is looking over it. usually you keep it as yourself still and not the reviewer, but just keep it as a developer. And then once that reviewer or the person who's looking over that branch, that code that you've done, and they approved everything, it looks good, then you would merge that code. And once you've done that, you can then move it over ready for test. And when it's ready for test, this is when you need to click on this task here and you need to unassign yourself. So here, click on yourself, unassign it, and then now when you go back here, it's ready for test. I'll have to remove that filter. So here, ready for test. Now nobody has it, so that's good because now the QA developers here, the QA people will be here in the ready for test and in test. So when a QA member is ready to come in and work on a task, they would grab it, drag it over. Now they're starting to test it. They would now assign it to themselves. So here you would have someone else on the QA side, right? Maybe it's Bob or Smith, whatever it is, and pretend this is someone else, but that their name will be assigned to this task now. They're working on the QA stuff, and they're going to now be able to work on it, and when they're done, they will then send it over here into the PO review column, and they will unassign it from themselves. So as a developer, or the QA developer, you unassign it from yourself, and here now the PO, which is a product owner, product manager, they would come in here and they would take a look at these tasks and they would assign it to themselves as a product owner or whoever they are, and pretend this is a new person. They would select themselves, and then now it's assigned to that new person as a product owner who's reviewing it, and then once they're done, they would just put it in the done column. Doesn't matter about who is there. You can unassign it if you want. So here, if I go here and I unassign, and now we're done and it's completed in that column. So now we know that this is done, and if we click on this, you can see here everything is all set up and ready to go. And if I click on these milestones, pretend this adding a button is part of the basic template and design, you can see here now it's 50% complete because remember this other task here was added to that as well. So this one was added to the milestone. And if I go back to the one that's done, and let's say, oh, actually it's not done, it has to go back to PO review, you could move it back there. And if I click on it now and I scroll down, this one should not be 50% anymore. Let me see if I refresh it. So let's go back here. This one, milestone. %. So this one should be put back to open. So it looks like it automatically closes it, but that's not a good thing because it's not actually closed. It should be open when you move it back. So let me see if I convert this form draft, self-assigned. Okay. Let's see how we can change this from closed to open again. It looks like we have to add a comment, reopening the task because I still need to fix something. Of course, you'll be more descriptive than that, but here it says reopen issue. So now it has reopened the issue, and now it's set back to open. And I'm pretty sure that what we could do is we could set up some sort of pipeline task, a pipeline that will automatically open it up based on wherever you drag and drop these tasks, but I will have to look into that a little bit later. That's more of a development video in the future. But for now, you can see how I can open up the task if it needs to be reopened. And this should be set back to 0%. Let's see if I refresh it. And I go back here, click on the task there. And there we go. See, there's no purple there anymore, so it's 0% again. And that means we're still working on all of the tasks for that milestone. So that's the basic overall idea of how you can set up your dashboard and prepare as a team to work on whatever features and tasks that you need to do for each iteration you are working on.